Welcome everyone who's joining in this live session with Markus. We have a Facebook, Instagram expert, performance marketing expert. I think we're gonna have a cool discussion. I read somewhere that you launched e-commerces and then you failed and then you moved towards, figuring out and learning really how to run it and then help clients. So I think it's gonna be cool to talk about just your story, how you transitioned from what you were doing before to where you're at today. So thanks again for taking the time. For those of you joining live, make sure that you ask questions on the comments as well. And also just this interview or discussion will be recorded. So if you're watching it later as well, you'll have access to it. So welcome again, Markus. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Diego. I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to just talk a little bit about my story and hopefully share some insights that will help you guys out there to grow. Yeah.
Awesome. So I read somewhere that you started selling rap instruments. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So why don't we go ahead and start there? Like, how did you get started and what sparked that interest?
Okay. That's actually... Yeah, that's pretty interesting that you're bringing this up. I was raised in a very musical family. So my father is a musician, and he has like a music studio with equipment and everything. So that's actually where I kind of got started with with producing beats. And beforehand, I was like learning percussion from him, like real African percussion. So those are the roots, and then I transitioned into rap and hip hop, and we had our own rap crew and stuff like that. So everything you can imagine, we did it in this area. And then one thing for me was like, okay, how could I monetize what I'm doing and what I love, making beats. So actually that's where I came into marketing, because I was wondering, okay, I saw some like this was very in the early days of selling beats online, and so I just picked up some random strategies and mixed them up and tried to do something with very little money. But the result was not very good. So I didn't have any clue what I was doing. So I basically lost everything that I saved and stuff like that, just in trying. It was still a great experience just to first of all get your hands dirty and just try out some things.
Yeah, I have friends who are musicians as well, and I think one of the biggest struggles is like, how do you make money while you figure the music part out? So I think it was cool that you said like, all right, let's go online and like try to sell beats online.
Yeah, because I mean, as you say, like this is maybe the biggest struggle for musicians and also like artists, for example. Because you want to do your own music, and this was actually the reason why I stopped trying to sell beats online. Because you kind of like have to see what the demand is, and then create the supply for the demand. And at this point you're not really doing the music you want to do, but you're doing the beats, for example, that people want to buy. So this is kind of like a tricky thing. So
we won't get to it today, but I would imagine there's a whole artist thing of like, well, is that art then because you're not doing what you really love versus like doing stuff for other people, what people want to hear, basically, and is that really a true art form? But we'll talk about that another time. And then, how did you transition, and what happened next? Like, did you start doing e-commerce, and what did you started trying to sell beats online, didn't work, lost everything, and then what happened?
Yeah, actually what happened is, first of all, it sparked my interest into marketing, and especially like profitable online marketing. Like my question afterwards was, how do I learn to sell online, and not only sell online, but but profitably advertise something online. So yeah, basically the next step for me was I worked at a startup. So I was there like an intern. I did an internship first, and then gradually moved up the small ladder in the startup, and yeah, basically worked there. I think 4 years in total. And there it was a very marketing driven startup. So they had huge Facebook budgets, and a whole team dedicated to how do we generate leads. And my part was like, I was like in between the generating leads and how do we convert them into long-term customers.
Okay.
So this was very, very interesting. And yeah, this is basically where I first learned how to advertise, and what are the things that are necessary in order to find the right people on Facebook, for example, and then convert them to long-term customers.
So you were basically doing that bridge of like marketing and sales, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very like on the sales side, it was very CRM heavy, very email marketing heavy. So this was my main part, but then it kind of like I gradually got into this bridge to the marketing department as well, where we ended up discussing how can we get the right people for our product.
And then did you launch e-commerce sites as well in the process, or did you try to launch your own products?
At this point, I tried, but it was very little time because it was very startup. The startup time was very time consuming, so to say. But afterwards, I launched my first e-commerce. And this was actually in the accessories, like men's accessories, where we sold bow ties. So bow ties from African fabrics. So really crazy stuff. And yeah.
What didn't work? Why didn't it work? What were your biggest lessons there? Because I think that's something that we have a lot in our community as well. People thinking like, all right, I work for a startup, or I have a 9-to-5 job. Like, should I start a consulting agency business and start giving services, or should I just launch my own products? And I think that's something, people who do marketing as well and who do a lot of digital marketing, they're like, man, I'm helping all these businesses. Like, why don't I just launch mine? And I'm sure you probably think about it as well. What were your biggest lessons there, I guess?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because sometimes it's like you generate all this sales, all this money, and this revenue too for your customers, and you're like, man, why am I not doing it for myself? Like, I know how to do it, but I think one of the lessons there was that there is more to it than just advertising. I think this is like maybe the biggest lesson. That it's not enough just to know how to advertise, but you have to know about product market fit. You have to know about delivering the products on time and stuff like that. So there's a lot more to a successful e-commerce than just advertising. I think it's a very huge part, but in a sense, I always tell my customers, I'm not a magician.
Yeah.
Like I come in here and I know tools, and I know strategies, and I know how to use Facebook ads, but I'm only as good as your product is. So I'm not a wizard. So that's what I tell them, and I think this is a very important lesson to understand that it's not just the marketing part, and also for yourself, as when you're a freelancer or have your own agency, you really have to select your clients in order to say, okay, can I really help them, or can I really leverage something there, or am I kind of like the savior and I have to perform like in crazy ways in order to just get the ball rolling, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you make a good point of I think a lot of people don't realize that probably more than advertising, product market fit is top number one
Yeah.
choice when looking at clients, and then comes advertising. Because if you don't have product market fit, then it becomes really hard to start working with clients, especially with people who are just getting started.
Yeah.
Where it's like, who's your customer? Everyone. And it's like, well,
Yeah. Exactly.
not
Yes.
really.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, this is exactly the point. Like, so many people that run e-commerce sites, and not only e-commerce sites, but in general, like even if it's in the lead generation space, they think they know their customers, but in my experience, the most of them don't. So one thing that we do, or I do with my team, is that we really dig deep into who are their target customers, or their dream customers, so to say. And so we conduct interviews with their clients in order to really get the truth, because it's always biased with the store owners, or yeah, CEOs, whatever. They have kind of like a mental image of their customer, which is not always the true image of the customer. So this is very important, and I can only recommend it to really conduct interviews, take the time, because this, at the end of the day, it will save you a lot of pain, um, a lot of ad spend also, when you know where to search, when you know how to frame the copywriting and stuff like that.
And then do you specialize more on lead generation in e-commerce, or do you do both? How do you split that?
Actually, I specialize on e-commerce for fashion and watch brands. So yeah, this is actually the main niche. I think there's nothing bad in doing both. I know a lot of agency owners that do both. Um, I think it depends on the lead generation, how difficult it is to generate high quality leads.
Yeah.
But if you have a standard operating procedure, and you have things optimized, this can be also a great source for revenue and good results. Yeah.
And I think I would imagine, with your experience working in that role of managing marketing and sales in the startup that you work with, what are some challenges of being in that role, and why you didn't go through lead generation, you pick e-commerce? Because we specialized in that when I had the agency as well, just lead generation for real estate developers.
Okay.
It's a pain. Like, so it's like, oh man, like leads don't qualify. And then
Yeah.
marketing companies like, yeah, but you're not calling them. It's taking you a week to call. So like, how do you expect for it to work? Like, what are the challenges that you saw in doing lead generation? Because I think it's something that, when you look online, it's like, well, you do lead generation and e-commerce, and those are the easiest ones. But why not go for lead generation when you have so much experience there?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. Very good question. Actually, after the startup time, I was also like yeah, self-employed as a consultant, and we did some consulting projects in the lead generation space, and it was it was exactly what you said right now, Diego, because we were kind of like the task force for optimizing the lead generation process and getting highly qualified leads for no money. Like, this was their goal. And then what happened? You generate all those leads, but it doesn't stop there, because then you have the sales process, and it has to integrate, because the people, they are kind of like trained for the lead generation you had before, and now you come on top and do something else. So you definitely have to train them also to think differently, to talk differently to the customers. So and then it's always like finger pointing and blaming, and you're sending low quality leads, and then but you're not calling them. So what I learned actually from my experience in the startup and as a consultant is, when you do lead generation, the most efficient way is to really look at the whole thing, and then also offer the whole thing, like from A to Z. You have to get those leads, essentially just build a new funnel on top, and train also their sales personnel. Either they're calling by phone or by email or whatever, because otherwise it's just, you know, finger pointing and, yeah, a lot of headache. But I think you know what I'm talking about.
We ended up doing that. Like, we ended up doing mostly like 70-80% was more sales and focused, and 20-30 was lead generation, because we realized that the value was in sales, and most agencies, people don't want to get into sales. Like, they hate it.
Yeah.
And so if you do, it's like a pretty good value proposition, but it's also very tiring. Like, working with sales is rough.
Imagine.
And so how did you, so you switched, so you said like, all right, no lead generation, did consulting, like this is not for me. How did you start getting clients on the e-commerce side?
On the e-commerce side, actually, it was through my consulting where I got the first clients. Yeah, and I mean, it was just like they just threw me in and said, well, we want to advertise online and we don't have a clue, and why don't you come and consult us? And then I labored out some plan and strategy, and then I figured that actually for this client, everything was kind of set up. They had a huge brand, very well known, but the only thing missing was advertising. So this was really where I doubled down and I focused on, okay, how do I really learn the tactics and strategies of Facebook ads in order to help this client. So this was kind of like the beginning of me trying to really understand the Facebook algorithm and everything that comes with it.
And how did you, because this is a question I always get too, is how did you get your first client? Like what steps did you take to say like, all right, I'm going to do some consulting work or some, manage ads for people? Like, where did you start and how did you land that first client?
Yeah, also a question that I get a lot. But essentially, it was me, first of all, me trying to understand, like, or being very, very passionate about online marketing and talking about this with a lot of people. So like my first client, consulting client, came over a referral, because I had a friend that I've worked with in the past, and he has kind of like a complementary agency, so to say. It's very IT heavy, and they do ERPs and stuff like that. And so he has already connections to bigger brands, and but I'm not a threat to him. So he was like, okay, we do this project and we need some marketing guy. And I heard you're into marketing, so why don't you join us? So I think it's a mixture of, first of all, being passionate about it, and then also speak about it with other people. Even though you don't have the huge experience and stuff like that, I mean, if the people know you, they trust you, they will give you a chance. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good advice of start talking about it with people, and people will say like, oh, like I need this, and they'll think about, like, you want to be top of mind basically when someone's thinking about like, oh, like I need this type of person, and they'll refer it to you, and you might get referrals from people that you didn't realize that, like there's connections that points of connections that you don't even realize.
Yes.
And then I saw that you did a lot of masterminds. When did you decide to join masterminds? And I think this is a good one as well. And because I think a lot of people don't have the resources to join masterminds. Like there's also like all sorts of spectrums of masterminds from $1,000 to like $20,000. When did you decide to join masterminds, and how did you decide which mastermind was good for you? For those of people who are looking for training and just trying to improve that, going up in that ladder, I guess.
Yeah, also, very, very good question, because first of all, for me, it was like I didn't even think about joining masterminds at the first point, because I was like, wow, this is way too much money and I can't afford it. But what brought me in there was that I first of all picked the lowest, so to say, product of the product line, where the mastermind is on top, and just tried it out, and so like look for it. How much value do I get out of it? And yeah, I mean, for those where I joined the mastermind, I clearly saw with the first product, mostly it was an online course, that I got 10 times the value that I paid. So this really opened my eyes, and switched my perspective from, oh, those are huge costs, into this is a huge investment, and I will get my investment 10 times or even more back. So this is what kind of like took the fear away from me, that I just spend money and nothing will happen afterwards. So this actually never happened to me, that I invested money in myself and it did not pay me back. This never happened to me. But it's kind of like a mind game. Before, when you've never done it, you're like, so much money. But at the end of the day, it also comes with you, like, what do you do out of it? What do you make out of it? And yeah.
And I think follow the process. Like if you're gonna join something, just be committed and kind of follow the process and steps. And then how do you stay updated on like new strategies, things like what sort of blocks? And I never asked this actually, but how do you stay up to date with like things that are happening, strategies, like new things? How do you stay up to date with everything that's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Like specifically e-commerce, I guess, and
yeah. Well, actually, it's through the masterminds, because there we discuss every week, and not just every week, but also in the WhatsApp group. You're there with like-minded people, and you always have the ones that are very, very connected with news and stuff like that. I would not consider myself to be one of those guys. So in this case, I profit from those guys. In other cases, I give value and they profit. So it's a give and take, but definitely through the masterminds. And also when you have an account, for example, and you show it in the mastermind, and you get you get updated about the news. Hey, why didn't you try this? This is out now, and stuff like that. So this is a new strategy that worked for another client, and that's actually like my main source, so to say.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing about masterminds, is that you can connect with other people who are kind of like on the same boat, right? Like they're trying to figure out how to get to the next stage, learning, trying, testing, and it's like you're leveraging their knowledge and testing in your business as well.
Exactly. Like I think really masterminds, this is like it's so much value, because you save so much time by just trying out, or just connecting to different brains that do the same thing, so to say. And it really saves you a lot of time, a lot of energy, that is otherwise wasted in trying out random things. So actually you get strategies that work, and can just implement them and see what works for you.
And then how did you, so you started with like consulting, you started doing e-commerce. How did you come up with, I think it's like LVRG, like it's like
exactly.
Strategy?
Yeah, exactly.
What does it stand for, I guess?
No, it stands for leverage. So this is actually
nice.
The shortened version. Exactly. So how did I come up with leverage? Actually, it was like the next reasonable step, so to say, because beforehand I was like really a lone wolf consultant. I mean, as a consultant, you get this project and that project. Very interesting. You learn a lot, but it's also like trading money for time at a higher rate, but still, it's not really like a system. So then I actually, like, for me, it was the next step to take this know-how and put it in a shell yeah, where I can really talk to other entrepreneurs and other enterprises just on the same level.
Nice. And then I read also on your website that, and I think this is important too, is you specialize, right? You don't do website and SEO and I bet you get a lot of clients who are like, oh, like I want everything. How do you deal with that? Because I know that a lot of clients are kind of tired of that as well, and they kind of want to go through like a one-stop shop where, all right, they're going to do everything for me.
Yeah.
I want to have someone doing ads and someone else doing SEO and then someone else doing the website, and then it's like very hard to coordinate. How do you deal with that with clients, I guess?
Yeah, that's an amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing topic, and we talk about it also a lot in masterminds. But for me personally, it's the less the complexity is for me and my team, the better the results. So for me, it's like every single thing when you look at it, SEO, then doing I don't know, content, for example, for Instagram, organic Instagram growth. There's so many things, but for me, they're all separate businesses. They're all separate agencies, because when you want to achieve great results, you have to kind of have this narrow focus, because all those things, they take away focus, in my opinion. And there are agencies that offer everything, and they're also like, I mean, it's cool for some companies, it's the perfect thing. But for companies that look to massively scale through advertising, this is not the right fit. So there you need really a specialist in this space, in this area.
Yeah, and I think that when you specialize, you tend to get different customers as well. Like when you do everything, you get to have all the little people that don't have budget, and that's why they're looking for a one-stop shop. Because I mean, it's either like a really massive business who, like, you know, like is used to working with the huge agencies, and they want a one-stop shop, or you end up getting like the smaller players who don't have the budget and are just looking for bargains of like,
yeah,
no, it's just easier to get one person and they'll do everything and that's fine. And
exactly. And then I don't have anything to do. But it's like pushing off responsibility, I guess, in a lot of cases. So yeah, and it's difficult at the first moment. Also, when clients ask you, could you do this? I would pay for this. And then you have to say, no, I don't do it. Because it's kind of like counterintuitive at the first thing, at the first moment. But I think this is the best thing you can do. And there's another thing to leverage this. When you get those requests, you can have someone that has an SEO agency, for example, and you just refer the client. You don't have anything to do and get a little commission. So but you keep your focus. So
yeah, I agree. I think that you have to specialize, especially nowadays, where there's so much you can do in digital marketing that it's easy to fall into that trap of like, it's not just SEO, but then they want TikTok and they also Snapchat.
yeah.
And then
Everything. yeah. Then with every request, you're like, okay, you go back and then, oh, we have to learn about this. We have to learn how to run ads there. And then you're always like, you're just opening a new silo, so to say, every time. And this takes energy out of your business.
And then I've seen that you just do Facebook and Instagram, and I was going to ask you, why not Google? Because I know that Google's strong and like in there as well. Is there a specific, do you do Google, or is there a specific reason why you're not doing Google yet?
No, this is actually, this is more like a, I would say, internal versus external perspective. So for clients that request it and where we see potential, we offer Google as well, but not for the outside, because this would also like for me, hurt the reputation of being like a real specialist, Facebook, Instagram ads. And we don't want clients that just do Google, for example. So either we do it like both, or just Facebook and Instagram ads.
Do you see advantages or certain type of businesses where Google works better than Facebook and Instagram?
Well, it depends. I think in e-commerce, it definitely makes sense to run Google Ads, because Google Shopping, for example, is very, very easy to set up, so to say, and easy to optimize. Where it's a little bit more trickier is when you really, and also like one thing that works also very well is brand campaigns, just to strengthen the brand through Google. But one thing we really, I will not say shy away from, but we tend to not do it first, is really do keyword research and do search campaigns, because this can get a little more complex, and I think in most of the cases there are people that do it way better.
Because I think for certain lead generation businesses it might make sense. I think more Google attention, and also like higher end I've seen as well that Google tends to works best because you have like just the intention there versus going into Facebook and Instagram and looking. A little more challenging, I guess. And then the last thing, I guess, is I saw that you got Facebook Blueprint certified. Why do you think it's important for people to get certified? As a consultant or agency?
No, absolutely. I think it's very important, just to show, because at the end of the day, people, they get bombarded on LinkedIn and on their email from so-called experts in their field. So I think it's a great way to really separate yourself from all those, so to say, or quote unquote experts, because then you really proved that you put in the time, put in the work to understand the deeper mechanics of Facebook ads, of running Facebook ads. And I think it's a great way to show clients, and also in general the outside world, that you specialize on this, and are not just like some guy running Facebook ads, but you really are certified by Facebook. And I think this makes an impression.
And then how did you prepare for the exams?
For the exams, actually, I studied the preparation test on the Facebook side. I studied it until I reached 99% or something, or close to 100%, where I really felt confident. So I think this was also always the point where I said, okay, now I know. I've seen all those questions, and also I used their training questions to prepare. But it was, most of the time, it was the practice test.
And then do you think, I guess, who do you think should take the exams? Like, because one thing I always tell people is that they're not for everyone. Like, it's not worth spending time, and it's not for everyone. Like, in your mind, who do you think should be taking those exams? And do you use the exams? Because this is another thing I always get, is like when you're hiring people or looking to hire people, is that something that adds value to someone's resume?
Okay. So the first question, who do I recommend it to? I would say that, like, every time you want to go out and step out and confront people with your services, or also gain customers, for example, I think this is a great way. This is a great way to show them, hey, I'm not just saying that I know about Facebook ads, but here is Facebook saying that I know how to run ads. So I think this is very important. If you're like in-house and are not really in huge contact with the outside world, I don't know if it's really the right thing to do. But the next question was like, do I look after it when I hire people? I think mainly I look at their experiences and what they've done and how much they've spent, and also if they have like a certain touch points with the niche we're dealing with. But I really tend to also look at their first Facebook certificates, because I want to see, okay, did they do the step and do it and sit down and really focus on getting this badge, because it for me it shows kind of like it's an extra effort. You don't have to do it, but it shows something when you do it.
And then because I think this is like a whole chicken and egg dilemma of I want to hire people who have experience, but then like how do people get experience? For those people who are starting, how can they get experience and exposure to running ads so that they can get higher afterwards and like bigger or agencies that are managing, I think, bigger budgets? Like, what do you recommend to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are a couple of ways actually. Like, you could you could first of all run ads just to run ads. So not really like focus on getting money, especially if you have a job and an income. I would just focus on learning, and learning is through experience. So get clients, even if they're small clients, but just get your hands dirty and see how the Facebook algorithm reacts, and try out different things. Another thing is you could also intern at bigger agencies, for example, where you get huge accounts and can just collect experiences and go from there.
Are you pro or against free work for a couple of months or a couple of weeks when you're starting out and you have no experience?
Difficult question. Really difficult, because generally I'm against free work. Because I think it does something. It's not just the outside thing that people that you work for, they say, he does it for free, and then when people ask him, yeah, he did it and he does it for free, that's the one thing. But the other thing is your self-worth as a freelancer or agency owner or whatever. It's important for yourself that you charge money, even if it's not a lot. Yeah. But that people kind of respect the work you do, and also for yourself that it's serious. I cannot just mess around and do something and try something, but there's real money behind it, and people spend their hard-earned money on my services, so I have to perform. So so I would not recommend to do free work. If you really struggle to get your hands on some accounts, I mean, you can try and maybe do it for 1 to 3 clients, just to get your hands on something. But in your mind, you should act as if you were paid for this.
Yeah, I think that's something I always tell people as well is don't do free work and just pre-frame them, right? Like start lowering and saying like, all right, the first month I'll charge you, 50% or 80%. Like just start like lowering your price till you get to a point where you might not charge a lot, but also pre-frame them. And I think that's important, is like, it's okay if you lower your cost by 80% and charge them like nothing the first month. In even worst case scenario, you can do it for free, but make sure that they know that the second month you'll be charging them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it becomes this like ongoing free thing of like, oh, whatever, like I don't have to pay him. And it's also really hard to go back to a client after a month of work and being like, okay, I'm going to charge you now, if you didn't tell them a month before that you were going to start charging them then. Like it's just a very awkward discussion, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's what you say. You have to pre-frame them. When you do it, you have to really pre-frame them and set the frame and tell them, okay, we do it until then, under those conditions, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do everything around it. And then we will charge, if the results are good, for example, I will charge from month 2, because otherwise, as you say, it's just like when people get something for free, cannot it's impossible to tell them you get the same thing, but now you pay me $1,000 a month, and they will not understand it. Even if you have great results, it doesn't matter. So,
and they don't appreciate it. Like, I think like if it doesn't cost you, like you kind of take it for granted, and I think your clients will take you for granted, and I don't think that's good. And I think going back to what you first mentioned as well is just make sure that there's a product market fit. Like, make sure that you're working with companies where you know that in a month or 2 you can actually bring results, and you know the step that you need to take is so big that whoever takes that client is never going to bring results because the product is just bad.
and it's sometimes, so this is like maybe the most important learning over the last 1.5 years, is really to select your clients. Because we come out of like, at the beginning is this mindset, okay, I have to get clients, but at some point you get clients where you didn't deliver results, but you did everything in your power. So this is where I kind of like questioned myself, okay, am I doing something wrong? What am I doing wrong? But at the end of the day, it was not always me. I always look for like failures on my side first. But when you can't find big issues, and you see you do the same for this client and did the same for this client, like structure wise, and the results are like this, then you start to ask yourself, okay, maybe this was not the right client for me. So I think it's really going down on what you said. Like, you have to have a wave, or that's what one of my mentors told me, is we are surfing the wave of our clients. So you have to kind of see how big is the wave that the client is bringing, and then I'm just surfing the wave and making it even bigger.
Yeah, and I like that way of like, how big is the wave and where are you at the wave? Like, where is it, right? Like, are they at the bottom of the wave? Or are they starting the wave? Or at the top of the wave? And where are you getting into the wave, right?
That's the next step. That's right.
You don't want to be in a big wave, but at the bottom, and then you get
and then crash.
And then I guess last question I have is, how do you pick your clients then? Like, what are some fundamental or key things that you look at when you are talking to potential new clients?
Actually, I look at, like, this is twofold. Like, first of all, it's like the kind of technical, theoretical fit, so to say. And the other part is the I would say mindset fit, and also like emotional fit. But the first thing is, I look at how their brand is presented. Like, how are their products presented? How is their store optimized? Because at the end of the day, when you could be the best marketer on earth, when the sales process is flawed, you will always this is your limit. This is always your limit. So I really tend to look at all the like the whole funnel, and see if there are already things optimized. I mean, you can give recommendations here and there, that's cool, but not the whole thing. And then I look at how much are they actually selling right now, because I don't want to be the guy that is responsible for bringing sales, like the first sales, because this is very, very hard, and there, like, most of the time there's no product market fit. So it depends. Some clients, for example, they do a lot of sales offline and now go online. So they have a community already. They have a list, a customer list already. They know about their product and who buys their product. So this is kind of like the client, for example, you're looking at. So more established businesses, not like the first starters, because this is very hard, because you're actually taking the risk for their for their product and everything. And and the second thing is actually like I think of a client relation almost like a marriage. So because it's a very close relationship, there's a lot of money involved, and sometimes it can be heated, and also like I don't know. So it's very important to kind of like get to know the people also. I mean, of course, you cannot tell in one meeting or two meetings how they are going to react, but just this awareness of also checking out, okay, is this a guy or a woman I would also spend time, not just like for business wise, but just, you know, just talking and having a great time, having great conversations. This is not a must, of course, but this is preferable, because you want to work with clients long term, and then they become kind of like your business friends, and you also want to select that.
Yeah, I agree. Like two things I would add is, one is the website is your bottleneck is the website for e-commerce, and the capacity of salespeople for lead generation.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's two things that people always like consider when you're looking into new clients, is like, you know, if you're working with a client who's potential lead generation as well, try making a call and see how efficient they are. Like if they're really bad, you're not going to make any sales. And the e-commerce side is the same thing. Like go to the website, try to buy something, and if the experience is bad, you probably won't be able to get results. And I think the other thing is the whole marriage thing. I think it's key. I think the worst thing that you can do is be in a situation where you're working with clients who are paying you well, but they're horrible to work with, especially if you're like running ads. It's like I think it's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah, it is. And because then it even hurts more when you deliver great results, but they're still not friendly, and sometimes assholes too. Just tell
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, but
just assholes. Yeah,
it's assholes, because and it's very important to at least try to select people and see how they react in the first few conversations. Because at the end of the day, you want, maybe you have clients that are not paying like the top retainer, but you really get along great and they value your work, and this is a whole different thing than someone paying you double as much but is really like a big pain to communicate with.
Awesome. No, thanks for taking the time in talking today. I think we got some really good tips. I like the product market fit. I think that's key. The whole passion, I think, be passionate and talk about it. I think not a lot of people do that. And when you start talking about it, people, you want to be top of mind with people. They're going to remember you and refer you clients. Focus, I think that's key as well. Like you can't do everything. And we made that mistake and it worked, but I think like you have to specialize. I think that's key. And I agree with you. And I really like the whole wave, how would you say it? Like, not story. What?
The wave concept.
The wave concept. I think that's a really cool concept. The wave concept and the whole marriage thing it's like when you're working with clients, like you're married. So great tips today by Markus. Thanks again for joining us today. How can people get in touch with you if they need services? Contact you for anything?
Yeah, the best way to contact me is LinkedIn, actually. Okay. So just search for my name, or I can send you the link from my LinkedIn profile. This is the best way to contact me.
Awesome. And I'll post your link on the comments for the live as well. I'll just post your link so that people can just go directly. I think that's easier.
Amazing. Great. Thanks for having me, Diego.
No, thanks, Marcus. Great talking to you. Great meeting you, and great talk. Have a good rest of your week and enjoy your holidays.
You too, Diego.
Thank you. See ya.
Guys.